A lot of people hate Gutenberg, and in this video, you're going to learn how to use it. So you can build a website that can be faster than those using more bloated page builders. We click on Pages, then on Add New Page, and we are in Gutenberg. In this example, we are building a page, but keep in mind that Gutenberg may be used for a blog post or other post types. Let's give this page a title and open the block inserter. Here you can choose all sorts of blocks to add to your page, and Gutenberg comes with a set of predefined elements, but as you can see here, also other plugins may add custom blocks to your website. The block inserter also includes a small tab menu and a search bar. Blocks are individual elements like an image, a headline, a container, or similar. And patterns are groups of blocks that can also be organized by categories. And you can add your custom patterns, and we'll see how, but also themes and plugins may add their patterns here. A Gutenberg pattern can even be an entire layout for a post, so it can be really simple, like a couple of blocks or an entire page. To add a new block or a pattern, you can click on it or drag it into the editor area. There are at least two other ways when you're working in the editor: clicking on the contextual plus icon right here, and with slash. With this, you can add blocks without leaving your keyboard. To remove a block, you can use the delete key, remove it with its own three-dot menu, or use a shortcut as specified right here. On the block editor, we have options to customize the editor itself in this menu. Feel free to try this out, but the only one I'm often using is Manage Patterns, which is to edit and remove your own block patterns. We'll come back to them later. With this icon, very important, we can open or close post or block settings. We have settings for this specific page and some for the selected block. But also keep in mind that each block has some options right here, over the content. At the current state of Gutenberg, some settings may be less visible. Let me show what I mean, because this is another essential concept that you will need. Let's add a block with two columns. It's easy to get stuck without knowing more here, so let's open the document overview. And now we actually see the columns. Let's click on the first one and add a paragraph. And let's move into the column the existing heading as well. Click on the second column in the document overview and add an image. Now, we see this toolbar for the image, but here we have a total of 6 blocks. Every single one has its own toolbar and settings, including the columns and every single column block. And at first, this is very easy to miss. So let's say that you want to align the content of the columns in the middle. You will find the right setting here in the columns block. Especially when you're doing alignments and that kind of stuff, always check all the settings that you have in all blocks. Another thing that will help you while you're creating your layouts is this navbar at the bottom. You can keep an eye on it to understand which block you're currently editing. You can also transform a block. To be honest, this is something I rarely use, but in brief, all you have to do is click on this icon on the toolbar, and you will see what kind of block you can convert to. This varies depending on the type of block. Now, let's move on to the next concept, and this is another fundamental one because it can save you a huge amount of hours of work. How to select and copy multiple blocks. Method 1. Open the document overview and use some shortcuts. Click on a block and in another while holding the Shift key on your keyboard to select all the blocks between these two. Or click on a block and then Ctrl-A to select all the blocks at the same level. If you keep pressing Ctrl-A, eventually you will select all the blocks on your page. Method 2. On your editor, hold left-click and drag with your mouse to select all the elements you need. I think this method is less reliable and I prefer not to use it. Whenever I'm building with Gutenberg, I keep the document overview open, always, and use it both to keep an eye on structure, but also to quickly select groups of blocks. Now, we have selected all these blocks. What can we do? We can copy them like it was simple text with Ctrl-C, and you will see a small notification in the bottom left corner that confirms that. And then we can paste them. The cool part of the block editor is that you could copy these same blocks on another page or even on a different website. And they will keep the same settings with the same customizations of the original layout. Of course, if you're copy-pasting on a completely different website, images will need to be re-uploaded. But everything which is text and layout will still work. And of course, if you want to remove all the selected blocks, you can use the delete key on your keyboard. Let's say that you did that on accident, like in all software out there, you can use Ctrl and Z to undo the last action. On to the next one, we need to learn how to create synchronized patterns. To save a pattern, select a single block or multiple blocks, and from the toolbar menu, select Create Pattern. You can give it a name and a category to easily find it later. Then you can choose to create a synchronized pattern or not. Any changes made to a synchronized pattern will affect all of its instances across your entire website. As an example, let's try to create a simple synchronized pattern from this text right here. In this case, I'm doing it because I know that I will add this text at the end of each blog post. When you want to edit a pattern, you can do it via the toolbar with Edit Original or from the main Gutenberg menu with Manage Patterns. Then, if you edit the synchronized pattern, all the same blocks will be updated, regardless of their location. But sometimes it may also happen that you want to edit one single instance while keeping the other copies synchronized. In that case, you can detach the pattern right here in the blocks menu. Now you can edit these blocks, and the other instances across your website will not be affected. Whenever you edit a synchronized pattern, you can save it here with the Publish button. WordPress will let you choose between saving only the page contents, only the patterns you edited, or everything. While we are here, you can also preview the work done so far in the editor in this small menu. And you can use these other buttons to have a preview of how your layout will look like in different screen sizes. Next, we need to talk about a common Gutenberg issue that you should be aware of so you can avoid getting stuck, which is creating additional containers or groups without noticing. As you can see, these paragraphs look a little bit weird. The last one has some additional spacing around it, and let's say you don't want that. You can click on it, and by checking the navbar at the bottom, we see that it's nested inside a group, and we can easily move it out and remove the group. This is an obvious example, easy to spot and solve, but keep in mind that in more complex layouts, this kind of detail is easy to miss and it can be frustrating to solve. So I suggest to always keep open the document overview, because with a quick glance you can see what you're editing and the structure of the section you're working on. This is valid especially for pages. It will rarely be a problem with regular posts that usually have a simple layout. As you have noticed already, we can create nested blocks without limits, and this will be fundamental to creating more professional layouts. You can quickly create nested blocks by selecting multiple blocks first and then by clicking on this icon. On Gutenberg, you can also easily create scroll to section links. To do it, you should first add a link with an hash and the name of the destination section. Let's call it About. Then you scroll to your preferred section, click on the block, open the advanced settings, and add an HTML anchor without the hash, so it will be simply About. And you will have a link that when it's clicked, will scroll the page down to this section. Sometimes, especially on third-party plugins, instead of HTML anchor, here you may have a field called ID. And the best practice here is to never assign the same HTML anchor more than once. So you can add, of course, multiple links, in this case, that point to About, but you should have only one single section, one single block, with the anchor About. And by the way, here in the advanced block settings, you can also name the block, and the name will be visible also in the document overview. Not really necessary, of course, if the page is super simple and basic like this one, but when you start to create complex posts that are really long with a lot of information, it can help you a lot to recognize your blocks and quickly apply edits where necessary. So at this point, you should know the basics of the block editor, just enough to go ahead, experiment with these concepts, and start creating a page. In the next video, we'll see how to create a proper homepage. I'll see you there.